Hiya, welcome to Punch Perfect Boxing. I'm just going to do in this video a short breakdown of the Tyson Fury versus Deontay Wilder fight. My thoughts and the tactics that were employed in the fight, and maybe some that might be employed in the second fight should it happen, please God. It was a great fight. It was everything the heavyweight division needed. It had drama, it had knockdowns, it had controversy, and it also had a great narrative. I mean, Tyson Fury coming back after all his problems, battling with suicide, battling with depression, losing all that weight. And I'll be honest, hand on heart, I didn't think Tyson could do it. I thought it was a bridge too far, and I thought, how are you going to come back from that? You know, I just couldn't see it. And I looked at his two warm-up fights and I thought, it's too soon. I'd heard reports of, I'd heard stories from Joe Joyce saying that Tyson was impossible to hit, and a few other sparring partners, and I didn't know if that was just gym talk or not. But he proved me wrong. I know there was a few people who believed in him, but he proved the majority wrong. He came back and he performed magnificent. He didn't gas for the 12 rounds. He was incredibly fit, incredibly agile. He moved beautifully. And apart from a couple of mistakes, which I do think that if Tyson had been given it a little bit longer and didn't have a little bit of that ring rust, I think he would have, those mistakes wouldn't have happened. I think they were down to just not being in there regularly. The other thing I think is very important, that we give immense praise to Ben Davidson, because he formed a plan, he formed an excellent game plan, and for 99% of the time Tyson executed it fantastically. I remember looking at the build-up shows, and there was lots of footage of Ben Davidson looking at film of Deontay Wilder, and he was studying it, and from what I hear, he spent hours and hours and hours breaking down Deontay's style, looking for every nuance, every detail of how they could counteract that. And like I say, for 99% of the time Tyson did it. Now for me, I saw most of the rounds were pretty much the same, with a few variations. I saw Tyson jabbing, working the radius. Wilder's here, Fury was there, Fury would land a jab and then move to the side and jab again, and then keep working that radius backwards, side to side, and trying to get Deontay out of position. When the opportunity was there, he landed a right hand. So that was mostly Tyson's offence. And also he does that thing where he leans forward on the front foot, and he creates this thing called distance deception, where he's leaning forward to put more extension on the jab, and when Wilder fires back, he can just pull back out and Wilder misses. So I saw mostly that, and then when Wilder would come in, and Wilder's combination of choice is a jab, right cross, and then a left hook. And what Fury would do, he'd see that jab coming, he would step back, and if he couldn't step back, he'd duck down under the right cross and then lean back, come up and lean back out the way of the hook. Now for me, I would have liked to seen Tyson maybe go southpaw, so he's got that little bit of extra distance between him and that right hand, and if he gets his lead foot outside of Wilder's lead foot dominance, he has an exit there to Tyson's right, Wilder's left. So he has that exit. You can see that coming, a little bit of lateral movement, because when Wilder was attacking, Fury would go back in a straight line. When Fury was attacking, he would move from side to side. So I would have liked to have seen a bit more of that from Tyson Fury. Moving around a little bit more as Wilder came forward, not coming back in such a straight line, stepping off. And I do believe that going southpaw, which he tried a few times, and maybe it was just he hadn't gone into that stance very much. He just seemed a bit awkward and a bit out of sorts with that stance, so he went straight back to orthodox stance. And like I say, for most of the fight, that strategy of either stepping out of the way of the jab, or as Wilder does his charge and Wilder comes forward in a straight line, he'll move back out of the way of the jab. Wilder will throw the right hand, he'll duck down, and then he'll lean back for the oncoming left hook. Now, absolutely brilliant tactics from Tyson, and like I say, for most of the fight he did all right with that, and then he got caught. And I do think the times he got caught were just a little bit of ring rustiness, and a little bit, if you look at his feet, they weren't quite in the right place. If there is a rematch, I would like to see him go southpaw more often and have that exit. And when Wilder comes forward, because you know Wilder's going to come forward on that straight line, which he always does, charges forward, and give Deontay his due, he covers that ground really, really quickly. And it's, if you're in there with him, I should imagine it's quite shocking to see that charge come forward and the amount of ground that he does cover really, really quickly. Now for Wilder, I do think that when Fury was doing all his herky-jerky stuff, which is incredibly hard to time, to counter, to know when a shot's coming, I think Wilder needs to be popping out that jab. Even if it's only a probe, even if it's just a probing jab, different speeds, different trajectories, just keep it out there. So Fury's got something to think about, because as Fury's doing all that herky-jerky stuff, which he's done since he's way back in the amateurs, right? I think when he's doing all that stuff and Wilder's hesitating, Fury's controlling the fight. Fury's controlling the tempo and the rhythm of the fight. And I think that's very off-putting. Wilder's just waiting for looking for an opportunity. And I think if Wilder pops that jab out and gives Fury something to think about, Fury isn't going to set up so much of his offence. So I'd like to see that from Wilder. And also when he comes forward, I'd like to see him use a bit of side-to-side movement. When he's throwing that jab out, step off to the... Once he's throwing that jab out, step off to the left and then throw the right. So you're creating a different angle. Or throw the jab, and as you're throwing that overhand right, don't throw, just have it as a throwaway shot, and then with the left hook. Or even jab, as you come in, change levels, because you know Fury is going to duck down. You can see that set up, then change levels, let your knees bend, and throw a straight right to the body or head. And I think that's a beautiful strategy. Do some throwaway shots. Give him something else to think about, because I think that Wilder, I mean, I know a lot of people going about Wilder's technique and stuff, but he was in that fight. He was in that fight, and I'm not going to get into the controversy of who won and, you know, whether somebody won because of the knockdowns or whether Fury controlled the fight. I'm going to leave that to you guys. But I do think Wilder needs to mix up his offence a bit more. You know, give Fury something to think about. Put that probing jab out. You know, put a ramrod jab out. You know, get that jab really, really working. I'm sure that he had it working against Stiverne. He needs to do that with Fury, because as soon as Fury starts doing that herky-jerky stuff, you know he's in control of the fight. The other thing I must point out in the fight, there was a beautiful bit of boxing. Absolutely world-class boxing. I'm sure it was a 6th round. You saw Fury pursue Wilder in a straight line across the ring, shifting stances the whole way and landing punches. Now that's a terrifically difficult technique to do, and do well. He was backing up Wilder, he was changing from orthodox to southpaw to orthodox to southpaw, and every time landing a shot. And for me, that was one of the highlights of the fight. For me, the 12th round, I felt that Fury should have just kept Wilder on the end of the jab, and I feel he would have won it. I think if he'd have just boxed and moved and kept his distance, but fair play to Tyson, he wanted to engage. And whereas I think that's the wrong strategy, Tyson went out. I have no idea how Tyson got up from that 12th round knockdown. I think a higher power surely lifted him up from that, because I cannot remember anybody being knocked down and knocked senseless like that and then recovering like that. Whether it was a long count, I've looked at it a few times and I would say no, alright? But here's another thing. I also think that referees after a fight, either in the press conference or in a private interview, they should come out, if there's a controversial decision, they should come out and they should say, you know, why I gave this. This was my reasoning. This is the way I saw the fight. And I've said this many times before, I think we as fans pay a lot of money for these fights and we need some transparency. So in the next video I'll be doing a little bit about judges and stuff, but I'll leave that there. But I think the referee should come out. We're not vilifying anybody, right? You know, whether it's in a press conference with just the press there, you know, the after fight conference, just come out and say to the people, you know, this is why I gave this. You know, you might have thought it was a long count. I didn't think it was a long count. I did this, you know. Let's have some transparency. You know, this is a great sport. And I think we deserve some transparency. Thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe if you like this. My next video will be about judges and referees. And yeah, let's see where we go with that one. Thank you for watching.